There are many cultures with a concept of hospitality, very different from the one most of us have. But there is a very remote place in the world where they are so hospitable that many times they offer their women to visitors to spend the night. In this new video of Uncensored World, we will know in more detail Chukotka, probably the coldest and most remote inhabited place on the planet. A place with curiosities as extreme as its climate, such as maintaining intimate relations between relatives, making piercings to decorate even their most intimate areas, or sharing wives among the men of the community to try to survive as a species. Chukotka is a place where the cold can be so intense that couples prefer to have sex without taking off their clothes during the harshest months, and where, due to the frozen ground and permafrost, the dead are usually kept in garages or basements until summer arrives, and they can be buried. A place so hospitable and warm at the same time, that preserves traditions as surprising as the one of offering what could be considered as the most accommodating women on the planet. Pay attention and do not miss this video, because we assure you that knowing Chukotka and its mysteries will surprise you. Let's start. In the most remote part of northern Russia, where the world seems to fade into mystery, loneliness, and a cold so extreme that it can freeze your blood, lies the enigmatic Chukotka Autonomous Okrug. This inhospitable and remote corner is located at the northernmost and easternmost tip of Siberia, a place where the land faces the relentless cold of the Arctic Ocean to the north and the icy waters of the Bering Sea to the east, separating it from Alaska by just a few kilometers. From here, at Cape Desnyov, the easternmost point of the Eurasian continent, where the winds cut like razors and the silence is absolute, the silhouette of the American continent can be glimpsed on clear days. As you will now understand, the Chukotka region is probably the place where man finds the limits of the earth and of survival, a place shrouded in legends and mystery, where the wild nature makes only the most resistant can live. To enter the remote lands of Chukotka from Moscow, it is necessary to travel more than 6,000 kilometers to the northeast, crossing vast landscapes to reach this region, probably one of the most inhospitable and mysterious in Russia and the world. In this area, where the Arctic wind blows with relentless force and temperatures can drop below -50 degrees Celsius, the land is in a state of perpetual glaciation. This continuous freezing makes burying corpses in this region an extremely difficult task. To understand it better, it is good to understand that Chukotka is dominated by permafrost, a layer of soil that remains permanently frozen, sometimes to depths of several meters. This frozen ground is so hard that digging graves in it is virtually impossible without heavy machinery, and in many areas, even that technology is not enough. Permafrost has led the people of this region of the world to adopt alternative methods of handling their dead. In Chukotka, the predominant religions are Russian Orthodox Christianity, introduced to the region during Russian and Soviet colonization, although the majority of the indigenous population follows animist and shamanic traditions. Regardless of religion, burial practices have been deeply influenced by the extreme conditions of this environment. Thus, for centuries, some communities have built crypts on the surface of the ground or elevated structures, where bodies are placed in coffins that remain out of direct contact with the frozen earth. These crypts are designed to withstand extreme weather, protecting the remains while honoring the deceased. While other settlers in this region have resorted to practices such as temporarily storing bodies in places like garages, basements, or special facilities during the winter, until the ground softens enough in summer to allow for burial, using cemeteries located in areas where permafrost is shallower or non-existent to facilitate burial. Chukotka, with its isolation and extreme climate, has an area of over 700,000 square kilometers, being larger than countries like Spain or France, but is home to a population of barely 50,000 people. All this makes this region one of the most sparsely populated places on the planet. The climatology of Chukotka is so extreme that it reaches minimum temperatures below 50 degrees Celsius in the long winter months when, in addition, given its proximity to the North Pole, It has very few hours of sunlight, only 15 in the whole month of December and 20 in the month of January. Something that very few people know is that this extreme and inhospitable region has enormous reserves of oil, natural gas, coal, gold, silver, and platinum. In spite of this, its friendly and supportive population lives basically from reindeer herding, fishing, and hunting. Although very few know this remote part of the planet, there are many who know its most illustrious and famous personage, the multi-millionaire Roman Abramovich, known for being the owner of Chelsea, one of the most important English soccer clubs. Abramovich, besides being one of the richest men on the planet, is so appreciated in Chukotka that he became governor. The population of Chukotka is a mosaic of ethnic groups, mostly indigenous, who have learned to survive and thrive in one of the most extreme environments on the planet. The majority ethnic group is the Chukchi, with some 15,000 members. The Chukchis, who give their name to the region and have a name very similar to that of Chucky, the mythical diabolical doll, are a proud and resilient people who have kept their ancestral traditions alive despite difficult climatic conditions and external influence. Far from being fictional characters, the Chukchis are experts in hunting, fishing, and reindeer husbandry, activities that form the basis of their culture and subsistence in this Arctic territory. In addition to the Chukchi, Chukotka is home to other indigenous peoples who have endured for centuries in this inhospitable land. Among them are the Evanos, a group of about 1,400 people known for their prowess in reindeer husbandry, the Siberian Yupik, who number about 1,700 people and share cultural ties with the Inuit of Alaska, and the Koryaks, whose population in the region is about 1,000 individuals, dedicated mainly to fishing and hunting marine mammals. As you will soon see, the people of Chukotka not only share cultural ties with other Eskimo groups, such as the Inuit of regions like Alaska or Greenland, but also many unique customs, such as offering their women to visitors that you will soon learn about. Before that, it is important to know that in Chukotka, the reindeer is undoubtedly the most important animal for the inhabitants of this region. Since ancient times, the nomadic Chukchi communities have developed a symbiotic relationship with reindeer, who are not only a source of food, but also a central part of their daily life and culture. Reindeer provide meat, hides for clothing and tents, and bones that are used to make tools and art. In addition, reindeer are used as pack and transport animals, with reindeer sleds being an essential means of moving across the vast Arctic tundra. Annual reindeer migrations set the pace of life for nomadic peoples, who follow their herds for hundreds of kilometers, seeking pastures and favorable conditions for survival in one of the harshest climates on the planet. Like reindeer on land, marine mammals are the livelihood of Chukotka's coastal communities. Hunting whales, walruses, and seals is not only a centuries-old tradition, but a necessity for subsistence. These animals provide meat and blubber for food, skins for cold-resistant clothing, and bones for tools and crafts. Walruses in particular are essential, as virtually everything from them is used. This link between the communities and the Arctic Ocean has been carefully regulated over generations, ensuring that hunting practices remain sustainable and respectful of the region's delicate natural balance. Surely one of the most impressive, wild, and unknown aspects of life in Chukotka is the coexistence of its inhabitants with polar bears, one of the most powerful and dangerous creatures in the Arctic. Polar bears sometimes wander close to human settlements in search of food, especially when the sea ice shrinks and makes it difficult for them to hunt seals. These interactions can be extremely dangerous, but local communities have developed methods to manage them. Some villagers use non-lethal deterrents, such as flares or sound signals, to keep bears away, but there is always an inherent risk in living in such close proximity to these predators. The relationship with polar bears and the ability to survive in such a wild environment has given rise to a rich spiritual tradition in Chukotka. Many villagers believe in the wisdom and power of shamans, respected figures who act as intermediaries between the human and spiritual worlds. Shamans are considered spiritual guides and healers, and are credited with the ability to protect the community from threats, including polar bear attacks. Through rituals, chants, and dances, shamans seek to balance natural and spiritual forces, asking for protection and fortune for their people in an environment where nature can be unforgiving. It is possible that this spiritual connection with nature is one of the keys that has allowed the people of Chukotka to survive for centuries in this hostile environment. Despite constant dangers, such as extreme cold and wild predators, traditional beliefs and practices strengthen the communities and resilience of these Eskimo peoples. This balance between respect for nature and ancestral practices is what has allowed the communities of Chukotka to stand strong in one of the most inhospitable places in the world. In total, the population of Chukotka is around 50,000, with an extremely low population density of just 0.06 inhabitants per square kilometer, reflecting the vast and desolate landscape of this region. Most of the population is concentrated in the capital, Anadyr, which, with its approximately 16,000 inhabitants, is the most developed and accessible center of Chukotka. The brightly colored houses in Anadyr stand out against the frozen landscape and offer an almost surreal view from the sky, like a box of candy scattered across the Arctic desert. Despite being the capital, Anadyr is still a place where life is hard, although it has basic services such as schools, hospitals, a port, and a library. The inhabitants of Anadyr reside in these houses often painted in colors with the purpose, they say, so that its inhabitants can distinguish them when there are blizzards or are buried under the snow. Another surprising fact about the houses of Anadyr is that the doors leading to the street open inwards, since if they were to open outwards, with heavy snowfalls, it would be impossible to get out. One of the most common customs in this population is that before leaving the house they let people in. This is done out of courtesy to the person who arrives, since it is certain that he or she is coming in from the extreme cold. In Chukotka, cars are usually equipped with heater engines that are activated before starting the vehicle to ensure its operation in these extreme temperatures. In addition, it is essential for the inhabitants to have non-frozen water available to clean the windshields. Thinking about traffic, it is good to know that in Chukotka, conventional roads are practically non-existent. During the summer, there are only a few dirt roads, while in winter, frozen riverbeds serve as the main routes. The only regular access to the region is through the Anadyr airport, which connects to Moscow with flights of approximately 8 hours and 30 minutes. For internal travel, small airfields that receive small planes and helicopters are used, but access is limited by the harsh climatic conditions. The most common transportation in Chukotka is by sled, either dog or reindeer drawn, or even mechanical. Life in this inhospitable region is adapted to these extreme conditions, with nomadic herders and fishermen inhabiting houses called yarangas, which are detachable tents constructed from reindeer skins, wood, hair, and wool. These insulated structures allow them to camp directly on the ice and live with little clothing in extreme temperatures that might otherwise freeze them completely. This region, with its rich wildlife and ancestral traditions, is a place where reindeer are vital to subsistence, providing meat to eat and materials for yarangas, and assisting in the transport of people. The Chukchis, Yupik, and other residents keep their customs alive in a natural environment as wild as it is beautiful. But despite their isolation, freezing cold, and limited presence of modernity, the people of Chukotka are known for their unique hospitality, offering a unique welcome in this inhospitable part of the earth. One of the most striking characteristics of ethnic groups such as the Chukchi is their hospitality and openness to visitors. Foreigners, tourists, or visitors are usually received with warmth, varied food and drink, and sometimes even with lodging in their traditional yarangas and the accompaniment of their women. This welcome not only reflects their friendliness, but also their willingness to share their life and culture, and even more adaptive motives that you will now learn about in more detail. Life in this region also includes a surprising flexibility in matters of marriage, where interaction with visitors of other nationalities is not uncommon, and Chukchi women knowledgeable of their traditions and abilities, can show an amazing sense of independence and openness to new experiences. These Eskimo women, according to their traditions, are accustomed to being so hospitable to visitors that they often even share their beds with strangers and tourists, always with the consent of their husbands. This practice, which is more hospitable than intimate in nature, is deeply rooted in the customs of the Eskimo peoples of Chukotka and has endured for centuries. It may seem strange to many, but to Eskimo societies this symbol of hospitality makes much more sense than we think. For years, anthropologists and scholars have investigated these traditions in depth, traditions that are also found in Inuit communities in regions such as Alaska, Greenland, and Canada, coming to the conclusion that due to the remoteness and harsh conditions of these areas, this practice was intended to strengthen the community and perpetuate these societies. These practices facilitated the possibility of pregnancy among Eskimo women, which not only contributed to repopulate sparsely inhabited areas, but also to ensure the continuity of society by providing more hands for essential activities such as hunting and other collective tasks, fundamental for the survival of these tribal communities. And that is why, even today, in the 21st century, Eskimo societies in this region of the planet continue to perform practices as strange and crazy for the majority, like this one. Thinking about it, from Uncensored World, we take the opportunity to ask you, would you let your wife or husband be so affectionate with tourists and visitors? And if you arrived in Chukotka, would you accept the hospitality of these Eskimo women? Pause the video and leave us your comment. Doing so is the best way for you to help the channel and other people to know better the world around us. So, thank you. In remote Chukotka, the Chukchi female population plays a key role in everyday life, excelling in child-rearing from an early age. In this inhospitable region, where defending their territory against possible invasions is crucial, women are trained in combat and defense skills. This is because the men may be absent due to hunting or other tasks that they take care of. This focus on preparedness for adverse situations highlights the strength and autonomy of Chukchi women. Sewing clothing in extreme conditions is also a notable aspect of life in Chukotka. Despite the severe climate, Chukchi women engage in outdoor sewing with simple gloves, adapting perfectly to the harsh environment. Temperatures in the Chukotka region are so extreme that they have led the villagers to adopt surprising customs, even when it comes to intimate relationships. It is common here for couples to maintain these relationships without taking off their clothes due to the unrelenting cold. This practice is due to the need to preserve body heat in an environment where exposure to cold air, even for brief moments, can be dangerous. Traditional garments are designed specifically for these conditions, with strategic holes that allow intimate contact to be maintained without losing protection from the cold. The resilience of the Chukchi and other local ethnic groups is legendary and is not only limited to these intimate matters. The inhabitants of this region of the planet, one of the coldest and most merciless, have developed unique methods to cope with the hostile climate, such as rubbing their skin with snow before performing handicrafts or hunting. This gesture prepares their skin for contact with the elements and allows them to better adapt to extreme cold. These techniques underscore the incredible adaptability of these Eskimos, who have learned to perform daily outdoor tasks in conditions where most humans would not survive a week. As for social relations and marriage, geography and isolation have given rise to distinctive customs like the one we were talking about recently. Because of the difficulty of finding partners from other regions, not only is hospitality towards foreigners customary, but marriages between even very close relatives are also very common. However, despite the isolation, Chukchi women have shown an openness to cultural diversity. Some young women seek and find partners of other nationalities, especially from Western Europe, thanks to the hospitality and warmth that characterizes their community. This openness to new relationships and friendships reflects a balance between tradition and adaptation to an increasingly globalized world. Among the most striking cultural practices are body adornments. especially among the women of Chukotka. In the Shaka region, piercings are a very old tradition that would surprise more than one for its originality and transgressiveness. Many women pierce their lips, nose, and cheeks, and some even pierce much more intimate places, always using animal bones and stones as ornaments. These elements are not only decorative, but also deeply rooted symbols of cultural identity that confer beauty and even social status. Eskimo women, known for their physical and emotional strength, assume roles of great importance within their communities, and sometimes these ornaments help identify their roles. It is not unusual for many of these women to participate in tasks traditionally associated with men, such as hunting and fishing, in addition to craft work. In addition to the renowned hospitality of Chukotka women towards strangers and visitors, there is a common practice in this remote region of the world: the tradition of wife sharing. This custom, deeply rooted in Eskimo communities, has served as a survival strategy in an extremely inhospitable environment. In a region where harsh conditions make daily life difficult, increasing the number of children becomes a priority. More offspring means more hands available to collaborate in hunting, fishing, and agricultural tasks, essential activities for subsistence. In this context, maintaining multiple intimate relationships not only strengthens community ties, but also increases the likelihood of pregnancy, helping to perpetuate the species and ensure the continuity of the population in one of the most depopulated areas of the planet. Thus, this practice, which may be unusual for other cultures, responds to the need to ensure survival in an extremely difficult environment. Wife sharing among Eskimo men is also a cultural adaptation that reflects the need for cohesion and mutual support in such an unforgiving environment. Physically, Eskimo women have developed characteristics that allow them to survive in this extreme environment. Their stockier build and higher percentage of body fat give them a crucial advantage in keeping warm. In addition, their almond-shaped eyes and skin tone are natural adaptations that protect them from the intense sunlight reflected off the snow. As you are seeing, life in Chukotka is intimately linked to nature and traditional practices, some of them unique in the world, as they have been shaped by climate and geographical conditions. These customs underscore the resilience of these communities, where physical and emotional strength, along with a strong connection to the community and nature, are essential to survive in one of the harshest environments on the planet. Surely some of these practices have surprised you, so do not hesitate to leave us a comment. Would you like to know Chukotka? What impressed you most in this video? If you want to travel to Chukotka, you should know that doing so is an adventure in itself. The most common way to get there is via flights from Moscow or Vladivostok to Anadyr, the capital of Chukotka, although there are also some air routes from other Russian cities. The journey can be long and expensive due to the remoteness, but for those seeking to discover this unique land, it is well worth the effort. Another option, less frequent but possible in summer seasons, is to arrive by ship via Arctic routes, which adds an even more epic dimension to the journey. The cost of living in Chukotka is considerably high, mainly due to its geographical isolation. Staples such as food and clothing can be up to 3 times more expensive than in other parts of Russia due to transportation costs and shortages of supplies. Accommodation is equally limited and expensive, with hotels and inns offering basic services at high prices. In addition, if you arrive in Chukotka, it is important to be prepared for a more austere lifestyle, where access to certain services and amenities can be very restricted. Tourist activities, such as excursions and guides, also tend to have high prices due to logistics and specialized demand. The best months to visit and live in Chukotka are between June and August, when temperatures are more moderate and the weather allows for outdoor activities. During this brief Arctic summer, nature flourishes and the days are long, making it easy to explore its unique landscape. However, even at this time, conditions can be challenging, so it is essential to be well prepared. For those drawn to the extreme winter between December and March is the ideal season to experience the true power of the Arctic tundra, although the cold and darkness can make daily life quite demanding and tough. If you travel in these months, we advise you to have everything prepared, because in certain areas of the region, the human body wouldn't last more than an hour without ending up frozen. I hope you have enjoyed Chukotka, one of the most inhospitable and wildest regions of the planet, a place that combines the magic of a unique nature in the world, with curiosities, traditions, and mysteries that would leave more than one speechless. We advise you not to miss the video that follows this one, to continue enjoying the wonders, mysteries, and curiosities that make unique this beautiful planet called Earth. Click on it. You will enjoy it. Don't forget to subscribe to Uncensored World to not miss any of the fantastic videos we make every week.